And now it's time for Ask Rich and Ed, our bite-sized chunk of a podcast.
Ooh, nice. Bite-sized chunks. Like dog food.
We get a lot of listener questions, which we love to answer with insightful views and advice.
Woo.
Let's see what questions we've got this time, Ed.
Well, Rich, will they be insightful, fatuous, or inane? Let's make it real.
Boom.
So, next question for you, Rich, from this is from somebody in New York, Karen Schlepper. I'm looking to go out to market for a complex IT service. I have 7 different contracts and specifications for work currently being done, and I want to go out to the market for all of these services in one RFP. What's the best way to approach this, Rich?
ChatGPT is the answer. Chuck it all into ChatGPT, all of your existing contracts, all of your supplier information, some views about what it is that you want to do, and let it generate
Yeah.
what the differences and similarities are in the existing contracts, what the differences and similarities are in the existing specifications, and that will give you a good 60% view what you're looking at and what you might want to do next. Then you can make the decision on whether it would work as one RFP or whether you want to break it down into different lots, depending on how different those contracts and services are. And Chat GPT may well give you a pretty good handle on what to do there.
I think the other thing is, I suppose the question for me for Karen is a little bit about, well, can all of those services all be done by one supplier in the
Yeah.
market? Or so how similar are they? Are we
Yeah.
the starting point really is a bit of research, I think, to sort of say, are there enough suppliers to actually bid for a sort of multi-tower?
And also the size, the actual size of it as well. What's the spend? It may be quite small, and you might find a supplier that is able
Yeah,
to do the multi-stranded approach. But if it's too big, you might need to break it up.
I think so.
But let's see. Bit of market analysis, a bit of AI. Boom. Job's a good one. I have another one here. This is from I think it's Roger Joly in Marseille. I have been asked to renew our software agreement for design software with a long-standing supplier. This is the 4th year we are renewing, and all of our designers use the software and the various applications. The supplier has a clause from last year stating the price will increase 8.5% this year, whilst inflation is only 2.5%. What do I do to negotiate better terms?
Ho, ho, ho.
Yes.
This is software contracts for you. They've got you by their proverbials. This is pretty standard in a lot of software agreements. What you're describing is a monopoly situation, really. And it's not necessarily that you can't get the software from somebody else, but you have a monopoly because everybody uses the software and the cost of moving to another software provider will be much too expensive. Because if you've got design software, you're probably sharing it with your customers as well, perhaps. And therefore it's embedded in your organization. Your people are trained to use the software. So you've got a sort of artificial device that makes the supply become like a monopoly. So it's pretty much impossible to negotiate. You have to think a little bit out of the box, I think, with how you negate the 8.5%. I think clearly there's a starting point, which is talking to the supplier and looking at other divisions to see who else is using the software and seeing whether you can consolidate it and go up and get a sort of volume aggregation saving, because sometimes suppliers will give you a reduced cost if you're a bigger user. For most businesses, that probably won't be possible. So I think what you have to start doing is looking at your use of the software. And what's telling in this note is that there's various applications. You need to do some sort of demand review and sort of ignore the 8.5%, but get to the core cost and see whether you're using all the applications. So I've seen examples where there's a education training module alongside the application. And a lot of the time the education module is not being used, but you're paying for it. So what you have to do is say, I don't want that anymore. And you take that out. So you reduce the overall cost whilst accepting perhaps the 8.5% increase. But the sort of supplier has you over a barrel, really. So looking at negating the modules, reducing your count, looking at whether you can have multiple tenants on the same application, but not concurrent. So that would reduce your licenses. So rather than you have one license, but 3 people using it, but they can't use it at the same time, for example, might be one way of reducing the cost. Maybe going to the cloud, if you're not in the cloud, might be another way of reducing cost. But you've got to think outside of the box in terms of the drivers of cost. not the inflationary piece. But it's a tough gig, I think.
That whole discussion with the supplier about we want to look at the scope, we want to look at the way that we can potentially reduce the overall revenue that we're working with you with, that actually might switch their mindset into, okay, we can negotiate the 8.5 because they'll see their revenue reduce either way.
And a lot of them are sort of tutored to say, no, that's the increase. And they play the card of we're consistent. We've got 3 price points based on your volumetrics, and the inflation piece is always this much. And they just sort of, it's a take it or leave it across all of their customers. I think the one thing you can do is to see whether they'll give you additional software for nothing.
So it's worth negotiating, see what you can do. The other thing that you could potentially do is a little surreptitious market test,
Yeah.
see what else is out there. We don't understand. Well, you've said that this might well be embedded, and the actual transition to a different software might be very, very difficult. So talk to your stakeholders, get them on boards. You might have to do some sort of bluff to say that you are going to go out to market as part of your negotiation strategy. It might work. Make sure your stakeholders aren't quietly telling the supplier, no, don't worry, it's a bluff.
Yeah, procurement fools. And then the last one is, but going direct, sometimes you can get benefit by going to a value-added reseller because they have an aggregated deal.
Oh, hang on, that's the next question.
Oh, is it? Oh,
So there you go. Last question is from Johnny Thunders in Nashville, Tennessee. I am new to buying hardware and software. Is it a good idea to use a value-added reseller for our IT and software procurements
ooh.
rather than going direct to the prime supplier? How do I know which is the best approach, Ed?
Well, the answer is yes and no. It's if you're a lower volume consumer and you like to buy, say, hardware occasionally, not aggregated, then going to a reseller can be a good thing because they get big volumes of bit of hardware that you need. They will be buying in bulk and they will charge a small margin on top. If you buy infrequently but in big batches of hardware, then you're probably better going direct to the provider. But it's a sort of mix and match approach, I think. The other one is that you've got to remember that you can go to the value-added reseller to buy your say desktop hardware, laptops. You can go to them for them to supply you, but you can go to the manufacturer direct and get supported terms. So you can get the benefits of direct and indirect through the value-added reseller. And it's pretty much the same with software. If you've got small spend, then a value-added reseller can be a good thing. The only thing you've got to recognize is value-added resellers align with different software companies. So you might have to use a few of them. I think it works. The margins are not huge. We know they get kickbacks off volumes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's the key, isn't it? Really understand, Johnny, what is your overall buy? How big, how interesting are you as a customer for the big vendors or the value added resellers? Because you might
Yeah.
be very big, and in which case you'll be very attractive, or you might be very small, in which case a value added retailer will still service you perfectly
Yeah.
adequately. Often the big software houses find it very difficult to do customer service, especially if you're not Fortune 500, and resellers will give you that one port of call for particular things that you're looking for. And as you say, Ed, probably better pricing, probably better service, and probably rebates as well. So
Yeah, and I think they also probably understand the products probably better than you will because that's their bread and butter, particularly in the software
yeah.
space. Yeah, and the other one is across this whole space, particularly on the hardware side, is consider options. Like we talked about Amazon Business in the past, they get support terms from the hardware manufacturers. You can buy exactly the same product through them. So I think it's just worth looking at all of the options.
And there's also Timu. So that's it. That's the questions for this time, Ed. They were exciting, weren't they?
Oh, yes, very, very good. And I love Johnny Thunders in Nashville. Is he a country and western star?
I think you may well be on the side.